Welcome back, everyone. Fantasy hockey is officially underway. Hopefully, you guys won your week one matchups. If not, no reason to panic. It's only week one, guys. This is a marathon and not a sprint, especially when it comes to fantasy hockey. But that doesn't mean that we can't improve our teams early on. Even though we do love to preach patience and make sure that we're not overreacting to a lot of things, we have seen a lot of changes and players that have jumped into really dynamic and specific roles that we weren't anticipating. So these are going to be players that you absolutely need to add to your team for week 2 of fantasy hockey. First off, happy Thanksgiving to everyone in Canada. This is part of the reason why you're seeing the video on the Monday. I unfortunately was at a dinner yesterday, so the video wasn't able to get out. And all these stats that are recorded in this video are before all of the Monday games. Canadian Thanksgiving is absolutely slammed packed. Pretty much almost every single team plays on the Monday for Canadian Thanksgiving. So that means that there's a lot of opportunity later in the week for some off nights and some streaming. So if you're trying to stream somebody for this week in week 2, I would suggest grabbing somebody from one of these teams, either the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, or the Utah Mammoth. The off nights are going to be typical out of the NHL on the Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And with the Monday, like I said, being jam-packed, there are a bunch of these teams that do play as well. So if you want to pick somebody up for the rest of your week going into the Tuesday and throughout the duration of week 2, highly recommend grabbing one of these two teams. The Caps and the Canucks also have 2 off nights for this week as well. So if you can't get to anybody or you don't like anybody on the 3 teams out of the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, or the Utah Mammoth, then I would grab somebody from Washington or Vancouver. Now, going into our must-add players for week 2, we've seen a ton of changes in terms of roles, and some familiar faces that we were really high on this year look to be right where we thought they would early out of the gate. Let's start off with Elias Lindholm of the Boston Bruins. He's skating in the same role that he was last year, line 1, power play 1. Has around 18 minutes average time on ice through his first 3 games. He's 46% rostered, and he's got 4 points, 2 power play points, 10 shots, 8 hits, and 3 blocks. So a great peripheral mix out of Lindholm. This is why we were so high on him, not this year, but the year before, was because of the opportunity and in that role. So maybe he just needed a year to kind of adjust and get situated in that spot, but he looks like he's having a lot of success early on in his first 3 games here, skating top line with David Pastrnak and on that top power play unit for the Bruins. So he's had a hot start early on, so maybe potentially look at him as somebody. Alexi Lafreniere, very similar situation. We were not on him too much this year based off what we saw from him last season, but the year before we were really excited about him because we saw him step in that top 6 role. And when he was in that top 6 role last year, he didn't really produce at the rates or saw any type of growth of what we had anticipated for him being in that role. But we're starting to see it a little bit this year. We've had 2 points through his first 3 games, but what excites me the most about Laf is that shot and hit mix. He's got 16 shots through his first 3 games and 7 hits and 2 blocks on top of that. He's skating line 1. He's on power play 1 now. They're kind of like rotating him and Trocheck in and out of that spot, but Trocheck is now gone down with an injury. So Laf is going to be on that power play 1 moving forward. So highly recommend that you guys look at him as well, at least early on in the season here. And then we've got Frank Nazar out of the gate with 5 points through his first 3 games, playing close to 20 minutes time on ice. We were on Nazar a little bit, but nobody really anticipated for him being this hot out of the gate. He's got 7 shots in his first 3 games, along with 3 hits and 3 blocks. On top of that, he is still skating line 2, but is getting a ton of ice time, especially on that top power play unit. He seems to be absolutely dialed in here. He's got a power play point through those first 3 games. The problem with Nazar that I'm finding is that he's center eligible. So it's tough to kind of like, same thing with Lindholm and a couple other guys in this video. The center eligible guys are going to be tough to get to because I know a lot of you are typically jam-packed at the center position because of how naturally deep it is in drafts either way. But what we're seeing out of Nazar early on is great news. If he's playing close to 20 minutes average time on ice, he's going to be a must-add. And we want to get to him early because we definitely see a breakup potential for him this season moving forward. Cutter Gauthier is somebody that we were super high on and that we were really trying to push you guys towards drafting this year because of that crazy shot volume. He had one of the best shots per 60 rate in the entire National Hockey League last season. He's got hit volume and block volume on top of that. He is left wing only. He's 37% owned currently, line 2, power play 2, and is skating now over 19-20 average time on ice. And you really saw that shot volume come to fold in his first 2 games here. He's got 14 shots through 2 games, guys, and 2 goals. He is going to be a goal scoring threat every single game and just going to get you a ton of shot volume on top of that. So highly recommend that you guys grab Cutter Gauthier while he's still available. I'm anticipating he is going to jump up a ton in terms of his rostered ownership in the next coming weeks. So be sure that you guys grab him while you can. And then rounding our list, Andrei Kuzmenko. We knew that he had a really good second half, especially when he came into the LA organization. They started running that 5-forward power play. It's their power play 1 towards the end of last year, even into the playoffs. He was very, very successful, close to a point a game. But the thing that kind of kept us at bay with Kuzmenko was the peripherals. We're now seeing a complete change of leaf here from Andrei Kuzmenko. He's got 7 hits through his first 3 games. That is not a typo. Kuzmenko has 6 shots and 7 hits, along with 2 blocks through his first 3 games. There, a goal, 2 assists, and a power play point. Skating line 1, power play 1. His ownership is going to jump a ton as well. So recommend that you guys grab him while he still can. Moving into some of our deeper forward ads, guys that are below 30%, you've got Shane Pinto, Zachary Bolduc, who have got crazy goal totals out of the first couple games here. 2 for Pinto, 3 for Bolduc. Pinto seeing around 18 minutes time on ice in his first couple games with 7 shots. Bolduc seeing around 15 minutes time on ice in his first 3 games with around 10 shots. They've got some hit and blocks in there, and basically a pretty similar player. Like, both skating line 3, both have had a ton of success scoring early on in the season, both playing power play 1. I know Ottawa likes to rotate Giroux into that top power play unit, and Pinto sometimes gets that second unit. So just keep an eye out for that moving forward. But pretty much the same thing, where both these guys could break out this year. Both these guys have some goal scoring upside, and just keeping an eye on these guys as we move forward into the season. Becca Seneca, Mackie Samoskevich, and Kyle Palmieri are all incredibly great ads, and their roster ownership is going to jump a ton moving into week 2, into week 3 if we continue to see the same success. Becca Seneca was the guy that they drafted 3rd overall, where he was absolutely shocked that the Ducks picked him that early. But he's got 3 points in his first 2 games, skating over 18 minutes time on ice. He's got 2 power play points in that span, 8 shots, 5 hits, and a block. So he's somebody that I'm really interested in keeping an eye on to see if that success kind of carries through. If he's NHL ready and they keep him on the roster, I think he's in a great spot because of how many centers, because of how many left wings the Ducks have. Seneca's in a great spot to kind of continue to see a top 6 role, and is clearly seeing a ton of ice time because of that. Mackie Samoskevich is a little bit interesting. I think I would love to see him jump in terms of his time on ice. We were kind of, he was on our radar because of the injuries that Florida had early on in the season, and they're now suffering more injuries moving forward. But he's still seeing that line 3 and power play 2 role. So I'm a little bit more hesitant on Samoskevich. Only 8% roster, but if you're in a deeper league, I really like the upside here at 8% owned. He's got 3 points through 3 games, 2 power play points, 7 shots, 8 hits, so a good shot hit mix, and I think his role should elevate as things get further into the season. And then rounding out our list is Kyle Palmieri of the New York Islanders. He's going to jump in terms of ownership. He is, a prolific goal scorer. He's basically scored 20 goals the past couple seasons. He's skating a line 2, power play 1. He's skating over 20 minutes average time on ice in his first couple games here. 3 points, 2 power play points, 10 shots, 2 hits, 2 blocks is a great amount of upside. Would highly recommend that you grab Palmieri if you're in a deep league. He's always a consistent goal scorer and gets you some decent shot and hit mix as well. Now, moving on to the defenseman, there isn't a ton of options here given the ownership percentage. This is why we always preface to draft defensemen early and often throughout your drafts. It's because the guys that are available on the waiver wire are very boom bust or just strictly peripheral based. And I think, given the fact that it's only week 1, you're going to see a lot of people start to panic in the next couple weeks here. And yes, you're going to see a lot of zeros here on the board. Guys like Zane Parekh, guys like Tony DeAngelo, guys like Jamie Drysdale. But I would rather at this point grab a defenseman that is going to have some upside moving forward into the season. It's only week 1, and by this point you should have a pretty solid D lineup. If you draft it properly, you should have at least 3 solid defensemen. And so if you're looking to add a defenseman from the waiver wire, you're really looking for them to be your bench defenseman or your 4th defenseman at, the absolute necessity. And I think a lot of these guys have a ton of upside still. Remember, guys like Lane Hudson last year didn't get onto that power play 1 and didn't start producing until halfway through the season. So if you can afford to be a little bit more patient with a guy like Zane Parekh, for example, who I know has been healthy scratched twice in the first 3 games for Calgary. He's only played 1 game, 2 shots in the block in that time. It's not skating on power play 1. I would employ a ton of patience. I'm holding him in my $100 buy-in keeper league, so I'm being a little bit more patient with Parekh. I know some of you are have a lot of panic early on here with the fact that he's not skating power play 1, the fact that he has been a healthy scratch. But if you can afford to be patient with him, I think it's going to pay dividends later in the season. Sam Renzel is a great option out of the gate already. We saw last year he had really good success in that kind of 9-game span. I was being a little bit hesitant for him, but after seeing how raw and how like terrible and kind of lost Leshinov was, it's clear that Rinzel is their guy in that power play one spot. He's playing a ton of minutes on top of that, over 23 minutes time on ice through his first 3 games. He's got 5 shots in that span and 7 blocks. So some good peripherals on top of that. I think the power play points are going to start to come for him. So I would definitely recommend grabbing Rinzel. I anticipate his ownership is going to jump a ton as he starts to produce more on that top power play unit. Tony DeAngelo, same situation. I'm really high on Schaefer this year. Like, I think he's going to take over power play 1, but Tony D is skating still on the power play 1. They've kind of mixed Schaefer into that back and forth, but he's still seeing over 20 minutes on top of that. He's got 5 shots and 5 blocks through his first 2 games here. And I think there's some opportunity as long as he's on power play 1 that he is worth a roster spot on your team. Jamie Drysdale, same thing, only 9% owned. His peripherals typically aren't good. As you can see, he doesn't have a shot through his first 2 games. He's got 2 hits and 2 blocks in that span. But I think for Drysdale, the fact that he plays a ton of minutes and that I think that Philadelphia power play is going to get better as we see things kind of progress through the season, I would imagine that his production is going to start. So again, I'd rather take a bet on a higher upside guy and be a little bit more patient with him as my 5th defenseman. And I think Drysdale is worth being considered in that spot. John Klingberg's seen some early success here with a goal and an assist and both being on the power play early on, which is what we anticipated. Sam Dickinson will play his first game for the Sharks today. So we'll see where he ends up on which power play if they do get a power play opportunity. But I think Klingberg is going to be in that power play 1 spot for the duration of the season. His ownership is going to jump. He's only 7% owned. His shot volume isn't great. He doesn't have a ton of peripherals, but the fact he's on that top power play unit with a lot of talent guys like Marco Celebrini, Will Smith, even Tyler Toffoli, for example, I think Klingberg's in a really good spot to be your 4th or 5th defenseman moving forward into the season. And then finally, guys, wrapping things up with goalie Scott Wedgwood, 64% rostered. If he's available in your league for some reason, grab him. Blackwood's out. He's going to be the starter until he's back. So I think, he's a great option. And then we've seen some early kind of 50-50 splits here between Jack Greaves and Calvin Pickard. Greaves is picking up right where he left off at the end of the season, had a 938 in his first game, even though they did lose that game. It does appear that they're going to split 50-50 to start things off. And we've already seen some Stuart Skinner woes early on in the season. It looks like he's struggling. He did not have a very good game. Let in an absolute ridiculously bad goal, if you guys saw that. But Calvin Pickard had a much better game for the Oilers in his start. So I think it's going to be 50-50 split. And I think there's a high possibility that Pickard takes over that net early on in the season if Skinner continues to struggle. So definitely grab Pickard if you want to just roster and hold a goalie for some upside going into this season. That will do this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button. We've got a ton of great content throughout the entire season coming to you guys every single week here on Fantasy Puck, so be sure to stay tuned for that, as well as check out our Patreon and be sure to join our Discord if you have specific questions for drops, ads, streams. Who do I need to keep on my team in order to be successful? Join our Discord. We have an incredibly passionate fantasy hockey community there, so be sure to check that out. If not, leave a description down below. I will get through all the questions. If you guys have questions about ads, drops, streams, be sure to leave a comment down below and I will be sure to be in the comments replying to you guys. So good luck in your week 2 of fantasy hockey. I will see you in the next video.